We're going to talk about this little beauty. Are you ready to run a gun? Stop for blast off. Let's go. Hey guys, Todd here with you. Welcome back to Bassin 101. I'm going to try to do this video without hooking myself. You know how clumsy I am. The Rebel Minnow. Man, this is, back in the 60s, I think 62 or 63, I think is when this officially hit the market. Actually designed and made by Bill Norman. And speaking of Bill Norman, I do have an old 1960s Bill Norman Rebel right here. How do you know the difference? Is the Rebel Norman, or the Rebel that was made by Norman, has nothing written on the bill. And eventually it said Rebel down the bill by about the mid-late 60s. And then by 1970 they started having the Rebel made in USA on it. That's when Bill Norman went off and did his own thing. But the Rebel Minnow, I mean, as far as topwater minnows, everybody likes the Rapalas and everything, but these cast better and are just as buoyant. There's no rattles, although they do rattle because split rings and hooks. And the average size is the 4.5 inch. Now they do make a 5.5 inch, which is also a good bait, especially if your bait fish run larger or if your bass run larger. But overall, 9 times out of 10, the 4.5 is the standard size. There's also, that I just showed you, there's the 3.5 inch size, which is if you want a smaller presentation. And of course, the only one I carry is chrome blue back. That's all I carry in a small one. As far as the 4.5, I carry chrome blue back. I carry Parrot, which is the one I painted just recently on a video for you. And then I have, well, if I can get it unhooked, Rainbow Trout. Now you wonder, why Rainbow Trout? You'd be surprised how many smaller reservoirs that I've got around here on my side of the state. A lot of the smaller reservoirs are stocked with brown trout, rainbow trout. Even the river that I fished all the time here behind the house is full of brook trout, brown trout, even some rainbow trout in it. So that's a good choice to have. They also made the brown trouts in these too. But these are the 3 colors. I use the rainbow trout, chrome blue back, and Parrot. Now when do I use these? Well, I just told you when I use the trout patterns. Chrome blue back to me is just an everyday color. Now you might like chrome black back, and that's a great color too. I've got my share of chrome black backs. There's just something about the chrome blue that I just absolutely love. And you've also got the Parrot, which to me, this is cloudy days, rainy days, maybe in the fall, or if you have stained water. But if you've got water, let's say less than 2 foot of visibility, I would not be throwing these. Just out of my own experiences. So as far as the Rebel Minnow, you do have a broken back model too. If you know, the broken back is the jointed, which is good for slow waking on the water. It's not my strongest type of Rebel Minnow, so I only have just like a small selection of those, but they're all in chrome blue back. But I do have 4.5, 3.5, I've got 5.5, and they work just fine. And I've caught my share of fish on them, especially if you use them as a topwater bait. This is my main thing as a topwater bait. The broken tail, or the jointed, what it will do is that tail will sit lower down in the water. So if they don't want to come up and get this Rebel Minnow, you have the one with the broken tail, they can just come up and nip at it, and you can get those fish. So keep that in mind. If they don't want to break the surface to get these, or they're not hitting these very good, try a jointed model and see if that works for you. Now, where do I use these things? Open water's better. You don't want to fish these around cover because they'll get stuck. It is a jerk bait. But me personally, if I'm fishing water, say 5 feet and shallower, this is an awesome bait because it's a universal bait. You can use as a topwater plug. You can use as a jerk bait. You can even use as a standard crankbait. Crank it, stop it, crank it, stop it. These run no deeper than 3 feet. 2 to 3 foot's about your average, and that's what you're going for. Or if you've got a windy day and you really want to rip that sucker like crazy, this is a good way to do it. In the spring, you can throw these things on top and all of a sudden jerk them underwater 2 or 3 times really fast and just let it float right back up, especially if you're over a bed. They can't stand that. So the Rebel Minnow, unfortunately, I would not say that they're discontinued at Pratco, but they're really hard to find online. The smaller ones are the ones you find more than anything else, or what they call the economy ones, which are just they have no hash marks. They're just the straight chromes and golds and stuff like that. Those are good too. So don't laugh at those. Those are also good baits. I'm just an old-fashioned guy. I like the old the hashes on the sides of these baits. And it's just something classy about them that I don't know what it is, but the action of these are, if you're going to jerk these in shallow water, I wouldn't say that they're sluggish, but because of where the bill is, they're, I wouldn't say sluggish. They're more tame as you jerk them around, but they're a faster jerk than some of your heavier baits because these are not very heavy. These are about 1/4 to 3/8. So you get a little bit more action out of them. If you want something that really jerks around a lot and goes all over the place, a bomber long A minnow is good for that because the lip is positioned in the front of the bait. Kind of like a storm thunder stick, that kind of deal. This is not either one of those baits. This is a little more laid back, but it has a lot more action than a Rebel Minnow. A Rebel Minnow is sluggish. You start to jerk that thing and it is really sluggish. It doesn't really go anywhere or do a whole lot, but these will move around. And they're very similar to a floating rogue, but I kind of like these better than a rogue. To me, a rogue is more of a suspending bait. But when it comes to a floating minnow, you just can't beat that Rebel Minnow right there. So until next time, remember, new techniques are trendy, but bass never change. May the Father bless you and keep you in Yeshua's name, and as always, fish on.